Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fans Huddle podcast, episode 2. We've got a big college football week to wrap up, week 1, and then of course we've got the big one, the NFL, starting tomorrow night. So we're going to go through all of our predictions. And I want to introduce Derek to the podcast.
Hey.
So Derek is a big college guy. He's
Yep.
UGA diehard fan. And Derek, welcome to the show. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm Derek.
Don't put him on the spot.
Huge college football fan. Love to be on the podcast. Love to bring that to you guys. Live in Nashville and happily married and have a lot of fur babies. So that's pretty much it. Do insurance for a living, so nothing too exciting. But I do get excited about talking about college football.
Well, let's start with that then. What'd you make
Awesome.
of week 1? You want to start with your Dogs? Absolutely dominant against Clemson.
Yes.
Bit of a blowout in the end.
Yeah. First half, really good defensive matchup. I thought Clemson played pretty strong in that first half. Played with them. I think the Dogs too in the first 2 drives were moving a little bit slower. I don't think they were opening up the playbook very much. Come halftime, second half though, I mean it was complete domination by UGA. Defensively, offensively, the Clemson Tigers could not get anything going.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of similarities between the 2021 opener against Clemson. It was low scoring, defense was dominating, but then whatever happened at halftime, whatever Kirby said to them, just opened them up, and it was completely dominant. Before we talk about Georgia, I want to talk about Clemson first.
Yeah.
They just seem to have gone completely stale. Chris, go on.
Well, yeah, I had a bigger question for you guys. You know, Clemson, Dabo Swinney has decided to basically not partake, right, in the NIL and has been doing it the old ways. And I was curious, Mark and definitely Derek, obviously that does not look like a sustainable model. And what do you think happened for him and that program that used to be the top program in the ACC and one of the top of the country for a decade? And now it seems like they can't compete with the big boys anymore. I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, Dabo, I think he feels like he's built this culture at Clemson, which I think was a really good culture at one point. I think it still is, but the problem is he's not wanting to stay up to date with the times of college football.
Yeah.
With the NIL deals, using the transfer portal. I mean, we've seen it. These teams are getting 5 to 8 guys from the transfer portal that can make a really big difference in these games.
Yeah.
He's not willing to do that. And it sounds like from all his press conferences and his interviews, he's hey, I'm good. We don't want to go in the transfer portal. These players are, they're hometown guys. We brought them here. We've built them, to what we want them. And the thing is it's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
So do you think how long do you think he survives this? Do you think this entire season for them is going to be a bad one? Do you think they're playing Georgia, so that was kind of an aberration? But because they just look totally outmatched, from
nothing
the entire roster.
2006, 2018 teams that they had. I believe they can still be an 8 to 9 win season.
Yeah,
and their defense is, like I said, their defense is pretty good. They have to. And luckily for them, they play in the ACC conference, right? Like, I still think they have a chance to be like 8, 9 wins.
Yeah.
But they're not competing for national championships. I don't even think they make the 12-team playoff. I don't think they're going to make 12-team playoffs.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, it's completely.
If you want to talk about teams that aren't competing, I know you want to talk about the Florida Gators. Did you not? They're.
Well,
what did
Mark,
we
do you have
see?
anything to add to that Clemson Georgia game?
Terrible.
Yeah, no, I was going to say just quickly, it's completely arrogant to me to not participate in the transfer portal, because you have everyone else around you looking at their squad, seeing where they have gaps in their squad, and going to the market and feeling it out. And you're right, like, the times have changed. You need to change with them. And the fact he's refusing to is, to me, kind of baffling. I think that's part of the reason why Saban retired. He got a little bit over like how much extra work it is, and that's just the reality of it now. It's not just recruiting and then set and forget. You've got to do a lot more work. You've got to keep your players. You've got to go and find players. But to me, it's completely arrogant that he doesn't want to participate, and it's going to cost him his job in the end, because, you're right. Clemson is stale. They're not going to go anywhere outside of an 8-9 win team, and even if they scraped into the playoffs, which I agree, Derek, I don't think they will, they're not going to compete. So, that was it for me. But, Chris, let's move on to Florida. Miami, Florida. So, I had a lot of interest in this game. I'd taken Miami in my parlay for the week, but I was nervous. Like the way they built up the swamp, it was hot, it was humid, the crowd was pumping. It was the first time they played where it was kind of even for a while. And Miami just blew them off the park. Was it Florida was really bad, or was Miami really good, Derek?
I think I don't think Miami's really good. I think they are better than they have been in the last probably decade. The last 3 years they've really improved gradually every year. I think Miami is a top 25 team for sure, and I think they have some good days ahead of them. If their head coach cannot make bonehead decisions like he did last year, if y'all remember that game against Georgia Tech when he ran the ball, I believe it was under a minute, and the guy fumbled. Georgia Tech recovered, scored with no time remaining, and that kind of ruined their whole season, to be honest with you. But I think Miami's could be a top 15, top 20 team. I think Florida is they're going to have a horrible season this year for two reasons. One is I don't think Billy Napier is doing a great job at Florida. The thing is they have all the talent in the world in that state to compete. Second reason, if y'all seen Florida's schedule, is it's brutal.
Yeah,
they are playing I think it's the number one hardest schedule this year.
Yeah, they have the hardest schedule.
I put them at maybe 5 games. They may win 5 games, maybe. But yeah, I think Miami's a good team. I don't think Florida's very good, but still, when I watched that game, they're in the swamp, home game. I mean, they just got destroyed. And Florida's pretty tough at home. It wasn't close. So.
Yeah, the second half of the season, they have to play Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State, which we thought was going to be something, but that's turned into nothing. But still, that's a gauntlet for anybody, much less Florida.
That's its own topic there. We'll get with that in a second.
I mean, but yeah, it's a really, really tough schedule. So you would think, hey, week 1, we have to win this game at home. Yeah. And they didn't show up. I mean, 41-17 is a complete blowout. It's embarrassing. And I think Florida's got to start looking forward to next season already.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll stay in Florida then, because you mentioned FSU, Chris.
Good Lord, have mercy.
Went down to Georgia Tech week 1, and I was actually talking to a guy from Boston College. He went there, and I said, hey, I don't mean to get you, ruin your hopes, but I think Florida, FSU was coming out to dominate. They'd be so embarrassed after that week 0 loss. The whole country was watching, and they came out and were probably even worse. Now they've dropped out of the rankings, and for me, I think their season is on life support.
All right, somebody give me some backstory on this quarterback, because nobody can seem to even pronounce his name, but when I was watching him, he was just awful in that Boston College game. He was terrible.
So DJ Uiagalelei. That's how you pronounce it.
Gotcha.
Yep. So backstory on DJ is he was recruited by Clemson, committed to Clemson, went 1 year there. No, 2 years. Transferred to Oregon State, had a decent season with him last year, and now he's at Florida State.
So is he like an NIL player? Did he get like a big payday to go to FSU? Because I thought he was kind of highly touted before the season started or whatever, and he just, I don't know, just hasn't looked. I mean, they got the first 2 primetime games of the year, and they've just been terrible.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He lost he was there competing with Trevor Lawrence. That's why he ended up transferring.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What happened to him out of Oregon? Did you say it was at Oregon or Oregon State?
He was with the Oregon State Beavers, who actually I think they had a 9-win season last year, which was really surprising. He did fairly well, but he's not making great decisions right now at quarterback at FSU. And I wouldn't put it all on him either. I mean, their defense looks really soft. I don't know, I guess since last year they went undefeated, technically until, then Georgia just whipped them in that bowl game. They've had a really tough start to the season.
Yeah.
That Georgia, not even 2 losses before week 1, right? They were 2. I mean, it's only in week 1 they already have 2 losses against Georgia Tech and Boston College. I mean, these guys are going to have a rough season.
Yeah.
It's been a rough 8 months for them. They were controversially left out of the CFP last year. They then got absolutely bombed by Georgia in one of the bowl games. Now this, it was kind of one of those upward trajectories, and then it's come crashing down. So a long season for them ahead, but they need to get back into winning form, and their quarterback definitely needs to step up as well because he's leading that offense. Two more teams I want to talk about quickly.
I just want to add to that real quick,
sorry,
Mark. Real quick, Mike Norvell, the head coach, if he doesn't get 8 to 9 wins this season, he'll be on the hot seat. You go undefeated one season to the next and have that kind of drop off, yeah, he'll be in the hot seat.
Absolutely, and shout out to Billy O'Stooge as well, who's Boston College's head coach and got him a week 1 victory. So.
Hey, look at you getting deep. Look at you getting into the 9th and 10th level of the college football ranks,
I'm sorry, but when I saw Bill O'Brien, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how is this man still coaching? But good for him. I'm happy for him. Two more teams I want to talk about. They had week 1 victories, but they were unconvincing. So the first one, Michigan, defending champions, started late, ended up winning by 20, but it wasn't convincing against Fresno State. We all expected a drop-off from Michigan this year. Do we think it's going to be worse than what it was touted, or do we think it was just maybe a bit of rustiness for week 1?
I think it could be a little bit of both. First couple of weeks of college football, you just never know what you're going to get. And some teams start off slow and they end up really strong. I think Michigan it was a lot closer than that score represents. So it was a 20-point difference. Obviously, Fresno was playing with them very early on, defensively too. I mean, they turned over the ball a couple times, but yeah, they didn't look like the Michigan team that we saw last year.
Mm-hmm. And Oregon were in for a big season this year as well. 10-point victory. I think it was the first time they hadn't won by against an FCS team for a long time. Had the smallest margin of victory, so that dropped them right down in the rankings. They're down at 7th now, so they were 3rd. Overreaction, or did they just not come to play?
I think it's going to be an overreaction. I think Oregon's a great team. They have a good head coach who obviously learned from the best, from Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning. They're going to put up points. It was a little, I was a little surprised by that score against Idaho. I figured you see a 63-0 blowout like we usually do, but yeah, I think Oregon's going to come back. They're bounce back. I think they're going to definitely be a playoff team. They're in college football playoffs, and they'll be a good team. Probably end up around. They're going to end up in the top 10 at the end of the season.
Okay, so nothing to worry about there then for Oregon fans. And then last one, Chris, I'll hand to you. Did you get to catch any of the LSU and USC game?
I watched that entire game. The press conference was just as exciting as the game to me.
Hey, Chip Kelly.
Brian Kelly was pounding the table and all this junk or whatever. So I don't know what he's complaining about. That guy's had 9 lives or whatever. So I mean, he should be thankful just to have that opportunity to be the coach of that team. He's the one that wet the bed. So yeah, to lose to USC like that, when obviously this is LSU is supposed to be, kind of coming back up and all that kind of stuff, when USC just lost the consensus, best player or whatever of college football. Yeah, that's a tough blow to start your season, because he knows what is ahead. Right. He knows the schedule they have. He knows the teams that they have to play. So when you're playing in the SEC, losing a game like that to start the season, it kind of puts you 2 or 3 steps back instead of 1 step back that all the other teams have. So I think he knows that. And I think he knows they let it slip away. And I think he was just showing that frustration out there. That's what you were seeing after the game. So I'd like to know y'all's thoughts.
You go ahead, Mark. What do you think of it?
I mean, Chris hit it. They're in the SEC, so they need to find form quickly. It's a new format this year in the SEC, the one conference, and they can't afford to really lose any SEC games anymore, because if you're not in the SEC championship now and you've already lost a game outside of that, you're probably going to struggle to make that 12. So they've got to turn it around quickly. I think they will. I mean, I think USC is still a good team. Yeah, and it was a close game. So I understand the frustration, but they've got a pretty soft schedule for the next couple of weeks. They play Ole Miss on the 12th of October. Yeah. That's College Football Super Saturday. We'll talk about that one. But they need to bounce back pretty quickly.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, when you're playing the SEC, every non-conference game, you need to win it. I mean, period. because you're like Chris said, your schedule's so tough as it is within the SEC. You can't afford a loss outside of it. And I'm not saying USC is not a good team, but in the SEC, 8 and 9 wins, which is a good season for most teams, is not a good season for programs like LSU, Alabama, Georgia, even Tennessee. Those teams, I mean, it's not good enough. So, yeah, hopefully they bounce back from that one.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you put up, 20 points against a team that was giving up, 45 last year, pretty much every week.
Yeah.
So I know it's a different season and all that stuff, but USC is not known for having a good defense under, what's his name? The coach they got right now.
Riley.
Lincoln Riley. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I felt like their offense should perform better under the circumstances. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. They've got Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma for ranked teams for the rest of the season. So
they got to play South Carolina. They got to play Texas A&M. They got to play Arkansas. Those are still hard. In the SEC, unless I guess Florida now, but there's really no easy games anymore. So,
and just lastly, Derek, Chris and I spoke about this last week, and we want to get your thoughts as a diehard fan. How do you feel about the expanded format, the new team coming into the SEC, the playoffs? Is it good for the game, or do you think it's, do you like how it was? What are your thoughts on it?
I love it. I mean, I think the expansion was long overdue. Instead of leaving it into these, table of how many people, what is it, like 12, 13 like committee members that kind of pick and choose who they want to play in that 14 playoff. Well, now, 8 more teams are going to have a chance to be in it, right? And it adds an extra game. It allows them to teams that normally would not get, if we would have had this last year, it would have solved a lot of issues.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Florida State would have been in it. Georgia would have been in it. All these, and so I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to be competitive. I think whoever wins it, it's going to be hard to say like, well, they didn't deserve to be in it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. That's what we're
and
talking
teams,
about. Yeah.
And teams that normally aren't in it
have an argument. The team that finishes 13th can't be like, man, this is bull crap. We should have made it. Yeah, it seems like it will not be as big an argument for the team that is 5th than the team that is 13th. So I think we're all
if you couldn't get a 12 seed, then hey, you're not in the conversation anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement, Sam, which is great. The other thing that Chris and I said was that it opens up the schedules. Teams are more flexible now. They're happy to play these tough games because they can lose a few.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the championship, the conference championships now have a bit of meaning to them. Like you win the SEC championship and you are in that top 4 with a week off. So it's like there's a lot to it now. It's a lot more exciting. So great. I think we're all in the grants there. And I mean, it's got Chris and I talking about college football more than we ever have before. Like I really enjoyed it on the weekend. So we're looking forward to what's to come. Pretty easy game for Georgia this week, but they have a tough schedule as well. So we're looking forward to.
Yeah, they do have a tough schedule.
Derek, any other college topics you wanted to chat about before we go into the NFL?
No, just a little preview for next week. Just some games to watch out for. I got a couple here I just want to name. Texas and Michigan play.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a great matchup. Great game to watch. Tennessee and NC State. That's another one to look out for. NC State just got in the top 25 and they're number 24 at the moment. That could be a closer game. It's in North Carolina. I believe they're playing in Charlotte, actually. So that should be a good game. And then Syracuse and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech 2-0. Don't count them out. And I'm curious to see what Fran Brown. He's a ex UGA coach. Coached the safeties there. He's the head coach at Syracuse now. And you got Kyle McCord, who obviously was at Ohio State last year. So I think that could be a pretty good matchup too.
Look at Georgia Tech at 23, hey?
I'm telling you.
Hey.
Don't see that very often. They need to take a picture of it. Don't know how long it's going to last.
Good for them.
Oh, that's nice. Good take, sir. That's good.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll look out for those games. And we spoke about last week, but Derek, October 12 might be the greatest week in college football of all time. And I'm going to keep plugging it until we get to that date because I cannot wait for the amount of games that are on that day. It's going to be a big one. All right, NFL kicking off tomorrow. Chris, I know it's been a long off season.
It feels like years.
It's been a minute, but they're back. And what a game to start off with, too. The Ravens and the Chiefs,
Great
two
game.
of the heavyweights in the AFC. The NFL get a home run with this one.
You want me to talk?
Yeah, I was passing on to you. Like, what are your thoughts about the season?
Come on, you
talking
guys are
about?
the NFL guys.
We're talking about Chiefs Ravens.
Well, the season starting, Chiefs, Ravens.
Oh no, it's totally exciting. The NFL knocked out of the park with this opening week lineup. Their primetime games Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. They are all great games. You got Chiefs, Ravens Thursday night. You got Packers, Eagles, and Brazil Friday night. You got Rams, Lions playoff rematch Sunday night, and then you got Jets, 49ers with Aaron Rodgers, obviously. I mean, all those storylines Monday night. But yeah, the Chiefs. I mean, they'll be putting another banner up. They're going for a three-peat, which has never been done before. So they are trying to make history this year, and like I said, they did not. They gave them it's a repeat of the playoff game they had last year, where the Ravens felt like they left them off the hook. The Ravens, I think, they only ran the ball 8 times in that game when they were the top rushing team in the NFL. Lamar was the MVP for the second time in his career. So the Ravens feel like they probably should have won that game. They should have called it differently. You know, there was a lot of little things that happened in that game. But going into Kansas City to beat the defending back-to-back champs in their house opening night with all that energy and all that just aura and everything, that's going to be tough for them. I think it's going to be tough for Baltimore to win this opening week. I don't think it's going to define their season, whether they win or lose. Obviously, we saw that the Chiefs lost their opening game last year to the Lions, and that didn't impact their season overall. But I think it's a great opening game. I think they couldn't have done any better on the schedule.
Hey, if the Lions can do it, the Ravens can do it.
Well, hey, don't downplay the Lions now, okay? They had a good year last year.
I'm sorry.
There was no Chris Jones last year, right, at the beginning of the season. And the Chiefs got, pretty much everybody healthy right now. I would say the Chiefs are going to win this game. I would predict, not easily, but maybe 7 to 10 points just because of everything that's happening with, all that's going on and everything that the Chiefs have on the line.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go through the divisions. We'll chat about them, our predictions for what's going to happen, go through our awards, who's going to win MVP, Coach of the Year, all that stuff, and then the playoffs, and then, just talk about.
All right, I got some surprises. I got some surprises this year.
We love surprises.
I got some surprises. I might shock you a little bit,
All right, well, let's
I'm objective. I'm objective, Mark, okay?
Good.
I'm not you, okay? Well, I'm not picking the Seahawks to win the West, okay? I know that's what you're going to.
Seattle Super Bowl, Jalen Smith MVP, Mike McDonald Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, The guy your head coach, I don't even remember his name. Is he Coach of the Year? What's his name? Mac McDonald or something like that? Mike,
okay. Mike McDonald, and we'll get to him, don't worry.
Mike McDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. All right.
We'll see. Defensive
right, what are we talking about? Get me back on track.
Let's start with the AFC East. Chris,
AFC East.
Who have you got winning this division?
All right, so this is not a surprise for me anyway. I'd like to know your thoughts, but the AFC East, I think it's fairly simple division this year. I think it is one of the weaker divisions in the NFL. The Patriots, let's start with the Patriots. They're terrible. They're awful. They suck. They're probably the worst team in the NFL or right there up there with it. So I have them going 3-14. I think they're going to be awful. The Jets, I have finishing third. I don't believe the Aaron Rodgers hype. You can call me a person that has daddy issues or whatever you want to call me with Aaron Rodgers. I think he'll be 41 years old in December. He's coming off an Achilles. Before that, the last year in Green Bay, he was a mediocre quarterback at best. I just don't see it. I see them. I think they'll be right around 500. I have them at 8-9, missing the playoffs. The Dolphins, I have finishing second at 10-7, vying for a wild card spot, similar to what they were last year. They're going to start the season out great, scoring 50, 60 points a game. And then when the weather gets cold and the snow falls, Tua's not going to be able to throw the ball, and they're not going to be able to depend on the running game and their defense. And then I actually have the Bills repeating as the division winner. I don't think I have them at 11-6. I think they'll just kind of squeak it out. But like I said, I don't have this I don't have any of these teams as potentially Super Bowl favorites or scaring anybody to make a playoff run. So I think it's a weak division.
Derek, I'll let you have first response to that because I have some thoughts, but Go on.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you guys follow NFL a lot more than me, but I have been following the last couple of years, getting more into it. I do think the AFC East I think it is stronger than what Chris is saying. I think it's a pretty strong division. You're talking about Bills, Dolphins, and Jets. Of course, Patriots are going to be, I believe we're going to end up on the bottom. But between those three teams, it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty tough. I mean, I'm not going to dive into each one of these teams, but I have the Jets winning the AFC East.
Wow. Okay.
I like their defense. I like their offensive weapons. I believe, let's see, between Breece Hall, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson, these are three offensive weapons for Rodgers. I think Rodgers is going to have a pretty good year. I don't think you're giving enough credit. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance this year a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to be a top tier quarterback, but he doesn't need to be with their defense. Obviously, look how many games they won last year and with no offense. They mean literally no offense. So I have the Jets winning it.
Yeah, I mean, Chris just
Come on, tell me. You obviously want to talk about the Jets. You're obviously a Jet guy too, Mark. I can see it on your face. You don't want to say it, but like, go ahead and let it out. Okay, let it out.
It's not that I'm a Jet guy. I think it's a strong division, and I think you can make a case for all three teams. Like the Dolphins killed it last year in the cold. They obviously struggled, but that's obviously something they're going to address this year. I don't know what they've done in the offseason, but that's a clear issue for them. So I expect them to improve, and they're stacked. The Bills, to me, have gotten a lot weaker. We haven't seen Josh Allen without a true wide receiver one play well. I know it was a couple of years ago, and he's improved a lot then, but I think he's got some question marks. And the whole team does. You know, Matt Milano's out for the season. I think that
Matt Milano.
I think Sean McDermott is going to be in the hot seat because they just have never got over that hump. And then you have the Jets. The Jets, Derek's right. Yeah. The Jets had a great defense last year. They've got some absolute weapons on offense. And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's coming off Achilles heel. It's a question mark. But if he gets back to being half the player he was, they're the best team in the division.
Okay, so, two things. Number one, I can't believe y'all got me defending the Bills, okay? Because I am a notorious Bill hater, all right? First, I think losing Stephon Diggs is addition by subtraction. I think he was a distraction. I think Josh Allen played better last year when they stopped throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs, which is what they did in the second half of the year, and ran the ball and used their tight ends. So I don't think that's going to be that big of a loss. Obviously, they did lose some big pieces on defense, but that's Sean McDermott's thing. If he can't coach the defense, then he doesn't need to be there anyway. And I'd like everybody's got Tom Brady fatigue. Name me another quarterback in the history of the NFL that still played at a high level after they turned 40, after they turned 38. Peyton Manning fell off a cliff. Drew Brees.
So all these guys make it that long, you know?
Yeah, because they can't throw anymore and they're totally immobile. So I think because Tom Brady played till he's 44, everybody's like, oh, he's Aaron Rodgers. He'll be 41. Yeah. It's okay. But there's going to be fall off. There just will be.
So out of all those quarterbacks that you just thought of that haven't made it, how many have slept in a cave in complete darkness for 4 days? How many have tripped on a Ushuaia and seen the light? None of them have done this. How many of them have even tried to come back from an Achilles injury within 10 weeks? Okay, the guy does what he wants. He's got a big chip on his shoulder, and he's got weapons. Like he has Mike Williams as I think he's a wide receiver 3, and I think that he's coming off an ACL. He's going to be great. Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Bryce Hall, like they're stacked.
Yeah, can you name any offensive linemen on their team? You have Tyron Smith who came from Dallas, who's been hurt his entire career. Other than that, they have nobody. So the problem with him isn't his weapons. The problem with him is how many seconds is he going to have to throw the ball when he's totally immobile at this stage in his career, and the re-injury risk is a huge factor.
For me, I don't think Aaron Rodgers has to be he doesn't have to be a game changer. He just has to manage the game, and he's been around long enough to manage games. And hey, it was tough. I mean, I think Dolphins and the Bills obviously have a chance at this division too. I mean, obviously, I don't even have a favorite NFL team. So, like, I'm just going off of what I feel. If Aaron Rodgers can manage the games and with their defense and the offensive weapons they have, I believe they will win the East. I mean, it's
a toss-up. It's a toss-up.
But they're going to beat the 49ers in San Francisco on Monday night.
I don't believe that. No.
You better hope he makes it out of that game alive. Is what I would hope if I wanted Jets to win that division. That's okay.
Aaron loves playing against the 49ers.
We can agree to disagree. I have daddy issues, so that's all right. All right, moving on.
Let's go on to the next one. Which, if we don't all agree on this one, then I'm just going to shut this podcast down right here now. AFC West, Chris. What have you got for me from the AFC West?
Raiders, garbage. Repeat. They're going to be terrible. I have them at 4-13. I'm pretty high on the Broncos this year. I think Bo Nix is going to have a really good rookie season. I like Sean Payton as with that type of quarterback. He is, I'm not going to call him Drew Brees because he hasn't played a snap in a real NFL game yet, but he has that same makeup. He's a smart quarterback. He's an accurate quarterback. He makes the right decisions, and that's the guy that Sean Payton wanted. Sorry, he didn't want your guy, Russ. You know, it was clear from day one. He did not want your guy, Russ. Now he has his guy. So I actually have them at 10-7. So I think they're going to be vying for a wild card spot this year. I have finishing second in the division at 11-6. I think the Chiefs are the Golden State Warriors of the NFL. They don't really care if they get a home playoff game. They don't care what happens. All that cares for them is the playoffs. So I think they're just kind of roll through the season, not really trying too hard. He took his headphones off.
I'm shutting it down.
He's so mad. He doesn't want to listen to my tape. He took his headphones off.
He can't listen to you any longer.
What was that? That's disrespectful, oh, man. You gave me the AFC West to go over, so you got to hear my takes on it. Right?
Yeah.
And I am a Jim Harbaugh guy through and through. I'm not a fan of his personality. I'm not a fan of him as a person. I'm not a fan of him in any way. But I know he can coach the NFL and he can bring teams along very quickly and quarterbacks. So I think it's going to be a career year for Justin Herbert. Once again, addition by subtraction. I think getting rid of these kind of older me receivers is going to be good for him. And I like having a lot of no-name guys. So I really see them. I got them at 12-5 and winning the division.
Derek, you go first because
again, I believe the Chiefs are going to win the West. They've been number one team with back-to-back Super Bowl champions. How do you bet against them? I mean, at this point, hey, maybe next year I'm selling a different story, but this year I got them winning the West. I think Bo Nix is going to be good, and the Broncos are going to be, playing fairly well. But and Harbaugh, unless he can, he might be doing some of that sign stealing in the NFL. We hope he does.
Hey,
be a little bit harder for him to get away with that. But yeah, I just have the Chiefs winning it. End of story. I don't even go over it. Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs had a down season last year on offense and won the Super Bowl, and they're going to be a lot better on offense this year. The Chargers, it's a first-year coach. He's been out of the NFL for 9 years. When he left the NFL, he left the 49ers in an absolute dog shit position. He might be good at coaching kids. Can it translate? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not
good at coaching kids. Chargers got nothing but kids. That's my opinion. You
Herbert's
don't
got
have to
no
agree
one to throw to. I do agree that Peyton got his man in Nix, and he made him a captain, actually. So that's pretty impressive for a rookie to be captain. He's impressed in camp, apparently. So they could sneak into a wild card spot. I'm not against that, but it's the Chiefs to lose. I
just think health is very cyclical in the NFL, and the Chiefs were extraordinarily healthy last year, and I just don't know if that's going to continue into the season. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm not saying that as a wild card team, they can absolutely go straight to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that hurts their chances or anything like that. I just think they're going to I don't know if they're going to be as motivated. There are a lot of older guys on the team, a lot of veterans on the guy. It's a long 18-week season. I just think a couple of these games, they might just pack it in just because they don't really care as much about the regular season as they do about the playoffs. They've shown that they can go anywhere and win anywhere. So I just don't think it's going to matter. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes cares. I'm just saying from 1 to 53 might not be as motivated, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, that was more debate than what I expected, but hot take, we'll see what happens. We never know. Okay, AFC North. That was me. I did this team.
That's you, buddy.
Yeah. This is a tough division too. You had the Browns. Yeah. You had the Browns last year, Chris, stepping up.
That wasn't a bad pick. Okay, their defense was top notch last year.
And I still feel Deshaun. If Deshaun Watson played to what he was before, if he played to that level, he would be. Their team would be the best in the NFL on paper.
I understand. We've been saying that for 3 years.
I don't have them winning it though. I have the Bengals winning. Comeback season for Joe Burrow. I think that they were. If you remember when he did his elbow, they were playing the Ravens, and they were on that. They started off very slow, came up against the Ravens, and I think they beat them in the end. Or they might have just lost, but Burrow got hurt. But they were dominating. I think they ran away with the division. It's a comeback season for them. Jamar Chase, he came back to training today. A little bit of a concern. He hasn't been paid yet. He's going to get paid. I don't know what's taking so long. they've got to pay
Didn't he
him.
show up to like practice the other day, like late and then street clothes, just kind of?
Yeah, that was when
Yeah.
Zach Taylor was like, he'll be there. He'll definitely be training, and then he shows up like that. But he did practice today for the first time, so he'll get healthy. The Ravens, for me, ever since Lamar's come into the league, he's had this unbelievable season, MVP 2019, and then they just haven't gotten to that level the next season. I think Lamar still, for me, I still don't know if he's a guy that can be a number one quarterback in terms of throwing the ball. He's a great runner of the ball. He comes in and out of form. He's inconsistent. When it gets to the playoffs and the big games, he seems to fall away a little bit. And that's where Joe Burrow, who I think Joe Burrow is one of the calmest players I've ever seen just under pressure. The guy just wins. So I think he comes back, and I think the Bengals get it.
No, if I would have picked those, I have the Bengals winning that division as well. I'd say it's the toughest division in football right now. Definitely the toughest defenses that playing in that division, all those division games beats the crap out of your team. So it definitely gets you your bruises and gets you ready for the postseason. You can make it out of there. So no, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, but I do think the Browns can do some damage. It just really depends on what we see from Deshaun Watson.
The only way I only have one team actually making it from that division made the playoffs this year. So
only one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after you picked the Chargers to win the
I got
the West,
the Bengals. I got the Bengals, and then I got the Ravens missing the playoffs this year. So
what about Steelers? What about Mike Tomlin for the Steelers? I mean, he's been first of all, he's not my guy, okay? What?
I don't know, Mark. I mean,
No, I had one. Yeah, I had one. I burnt it. Yeah. It doesn't mean he's my guy. He was your guy when Aaron Rodgers was your guy when you guys won a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
Things change.
Teams change. It's a business.
Derek, I'll ask you, the Steelers.
Yeah.
What do they need to show this year? Because they've always been that 9-8 team, that mediocre team. They snuck into the playoffs unbelievably last year with Kenny Pickett. Now they have two quarterbacks that are again mediocre, but they have a good defense. If you're the Steelers ownership, what do you want to see from them? You want to see improvement, but
I just want to see more offensive power. Pittsburgh has, for the most part, have always had a solid defense, at least for the last 10 to 15 years, right? Like, I feel like I'm not saying consistently every year, but for the most part, they've had pretty good defenses.
Yeah.
But yeah, offensive power, we'll see what Wilson does. I'll be interested to maybe get a look at Fields, though, and see what he could bring to the table. But they have to step up offense. They got to put up points. That's always a problem. They're in these low-scoring games, or they put up, 13 to 20 points. It's just not going to cut it. So that's what I want to see from them. More offensive power.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was built up as a quarterback battle between Fields and Russell Wilson. Wilson barely played at all in the offseason, or the preseason, sorry. So I feel like he was the number one guy from the start. So I don't know if that's a good thing for Russell, and has he just shown that he's back to his old self, or is it a bad thing for Fields that he was never in the conversation? So we'll see.
Yeah. Pittsburgh is they're living in a previous generation of the NFL where defense wins and running game wins championships. And they're one of the oldest owned teams in the NFL. So they just think old school, and they put their money into defense, and they've had great defenses for as long as I've been alive. And their offense has always been subpar until they just get lucky and hit on some of these draft picks, like they had Antonio Brown and Big Ben and all that stuff. But they are terrible at free agency of adding offensive pieces to their team. And until they start spending some more money on that side of the ball, they're just not going to be able to compete for a championship.
And they're also just they're not very exciting to watch. I don't watch Pittsburgh games and go, man, this is exciting. This is a game I want to watch. Never.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a minute. All right, last division in the AFC, the South. I thought this was a really tough one to pick because the Texans had a great season last year, but they overachieved. But they have gone out and signed Diggs. They've got some good players. Tank Dell's going to come back. Obviously, CJ Stroud's going to take a leap in year number 2, which is, I can't believe it's only his second year. They're going to look really, really good, but something keeps calling me to the Jags. And I know, like, I think the Jags are where the Texans are where the Jags want to be, and where you thought the Jags were headed. They had Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to take this big leap, hasn't happened. I think the Texans might underachieve a bit this year just because of all the expectation that's been put on them. And I think the Jags might just sneak in there. I have the Texans winning it, but I'm not confident about it. I think it's a toss-up between the Texans and the Jags. What do you guys think?
Derek, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, I have the Texans winning it. I mean, I feel confident in it too. Like, I like their team. They had a great season last year. Very young team and like talented team. I mean, you got Stroud. They picked up Diggs this year. You got Tank Dell, who came out of nowhere last year, right? Like, he's a player. Got Joe Mixon this year at running back. I mean, Nico Collins and Mechie also. So like, their offense is there, and their defense is too. Like, I'm just all these young players I have. Like, we talk about Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter that they got from Georgia. This is and they picked up Danielle Hunter from the Vikings. So I think it's a good team. I like the Texans. I think they're going to win the division, and I have them making a pretty deep run in the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with any of that, but I will.
Okay.
I think what comes up must come down. I agree with Mark on that. I think the Texans, now that everybody has a year of film on CJ Stroud and the team, I think they caught everybody completely by surprise. Nobody had anybody except Jacksonville even vying for a playoff spot in that division last year, and they just came out of nowhere. I do have them as a wild card team, but I do not have them win that division. I used my Jacksonville Jaguar card last year. I'm not using that this year. So I went all in on them. I had them making the Super Bowl last year, and Trevor Lawrence looked. I don't think he's the guy. I just don't. I don't see it. He's had 3 years now. If he can't do it now, he can't do it. I don't think he cares as much about it, like playing at the NFL level as some of these other guys. So who does that leave, Mark? Mark's like looking back and forth.
I'm like, you're not going to pick Anthony Richardson and the Colts.
Anthony Richardson, Indianapolis Colts are going to win that division. I have them as the 4th. They'll be they'll just squeak in. It's going to be a bad division, but they'll just squeak in maybe with 10 wins, and they'll be the number 4 seed. But I really like the Colts this year. They showed me a lot last year after all the adversity that they went through. Jonathan Taylor was in and out. He was hurt. They had Gardner Minshew and like all these other guys, and Anthony Richardson. I know he only played for like 12 minutes, but he looked pretty good in those 12 minutes he played for. So I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to be a top 3 running team in the league. I think they're going to play really good defense. I think they're going to be coached really well, and I see them squeaking in to win the division. So
nice.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad choice.
No,
it's a tough division. AFC is tough to pick. It's always been the really strong division, and it looks strong.
It still is. They got all the best everything.
Yeah.
All right, NFC. Let's kick it off with the NFC East. I think it's a 2-team race, but I think the Eagles improved out of sight this year. I think they had a really bad year last year. Saquon Barkley is if they utilize him correctly, Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, I don't know how you're going to stop this team. I know they lost Kelsey, but they still have a great offensive line. Jordan Mailata, Lane Thompson, I think it is. Great team. I think the Eagles win it. The Cowboys, we spoke about this last week, Chris. Like, there just seems to be so much going on behind the scenes there with Dak. I just don't know if I trust them enough.
Bad mojo. Bad mojo in Dallas right now.
They don't have a running back that's going to be
Zeke.
15.
They got Zeke.
So they're going to be relying a lot on Dak. And my issue with Dak has always been like when he's on, but like sometimes when he's forced to throw, when the defense knows he's throwing, he's good for a couple of picks here and there. And like I know he was runner up last year in the MVP, but he fell away towards the back end of the season, and I think it's going to be a down year for him. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think the issue with the Cowboys this year is going to be more their defense and the loss of Dan Quinn than anything else. I think he has a camaraderie with the players, the way that he coaches. He's such a player's coach, and the way that he kind of lets the players dictate how they want to play defense. I don't know if they're going to have that this year. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad defense. I just don't think they're going to be a top 3 defense necessarily. I think on offense, they'll be fine. They got CD back. Basically, he's playing for his next contract now. So I think he'll perform. Mike McCarthy is many problems as I have with him as a former Packers head coach, he can coach offense, and they've shown that since he's been the head coach in Dallas. But I just feel like they just don't have enough. Yeah, there's just too many weird things going on with the Cowboys right now. So I have them missing the playoffs. I think the Eagles will make the playoffs. I actually have them as a wild card team. I think the Giants, you didn't talk about the Giants at all. I guess they don't deserve any time, but they're terrible. So I think we all agree they're going to be fine. And I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be the best rookie quarterback in the NFL this year. I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I think nobody's really talking about him. Nobody's talking about the Commanders at all. Nobody's talking about Quinn. Nobody's talking about the way that he can coach defense. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to come in and surprise some folks. I think it's a weak division as well. I think it's one of the weaker divisions, and I got the Commanders.
Yeah, Derek, I wanted to ask you about Jaden Daniels. Obviously, he's an SEC boy. Where do you think he's going to go?
Yeah, he was out of LSU, Heisman Trophy winner last year. I agree with Chris. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I have some more information about him, but I'm not going to spoil that right now. We can talk about that later on. But I like Jaden Daniels, and I think he brings something to that team that they really are lacking or have been lacking the last few years. He was a good draft pick, and they're going to improve under him for sure.
I am not a college football guy, but I was watching every single LSU game last year because of Jaden Daniels. That guy, like his leadership, his ability to be so good in close games, and just basically he always took that team on his shoulders and like willed them to victory. It was something to watch, man. I hope he can transfer that to the next level without getting hurt. That's the biggest injury risk for a guy like that who runs it so much, and he just throws caution to the wind, man. He needs to learn how to like get out of bounds. He needs to learn how to slide, because in the NFL you will not make it. You're going to be the next RG3 in Washington if you don't figure out how to keep yourself upright for the next play.
Yeah, when I think of Jaden Daniels too, I think of that play if you remember in the SEC championship game 2 years ago, Georgia and LSU, he got sacked, but they didn't take him to the ground. Jalen Carter, if you remember, he bear hugged him and picked him up over his head like he was nothing. And even though Jaden Daniels is a great player, that's the first thing I think of when I think of Jaden Daniels, is getting picked up by Jalen Carter in the championship game.
Yeah, I think Washington's had a lot of good pieces. I just don't think they've had a quarterback. I mean, Sam Howell wasn't the guy last year, obviously. So, I mean, we'll see. That could be spitball in there. It could be, I just think it's a bad division this year. I just don't see anybody. The Eagles they were on fumes last year. Good Lord, they struggled so much at the end of last year. And Hurts and Sirianni seem to be having issues, not getting on the same page. They have a wealth of talent, so that should be enough to get them into the playoffs. But I don't know. There's a lot of bad mojo. A lot of bad mojo in the freaking NFC East this year.
Isn't there always, seems like, in the East for some reason?
Just always drama, always, I mean, how many times have we talked about the Giants and Daniel Jones, and like, it's just storyline after storyline after storyline in that division every year.
When is the last time we had a repeat NFC East champion? I think it's been like 20 years almost.
Yeah. It's usually a new one like every single year. It's usually the Eagles and the Cowboys going back and forth for the most part. But there's always I think it's been a new division winner for like decades now.
Well, it's the Eagles, like the Real Housewives of the NFL.
Yeah, they're always fighting about something. Derek, your Falcons and the NFC South.
Ooh, go Falcons!
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the South in general, and then the Falcons? They seem to go all in this year.
Yeah, NFC South obviously not as strong as other divisions in the past. Still not as strong as these other divisions we've talked about. But I like the Falcons winning this year, this division, because of the additions that they made. Kirk Cousins, obviously at quarterback, is way better than who was quarterback last year?
Desmond Ritter.
Yeah. That's right.
The guy who couldn't make it to the practice squad on the Cardinals.
Yeah. But I like Kirk Cousins. Obviously, you have talented running back in Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. Receivers, they don't have too much depth, but I do believe in Drake London. I think he'll have a pretty breakout year this year. And I think their defense was pretty solid last year, and even better, going to be better this year.
Yeah.
And so I think they're going to win it. As far as the other teams, I don't see, obviously Carolina, don't see them hopefully winning more games than they did last year, but they're not going to be in a run for anything. Maybe Tampa Bay is the closest competition that they'll probably have. And obviously they were a pretty good team last year with Baker calling the shots. But I think Falcons are going to win it this year, and I think they're going to go to the playoffs.
How are you at, Chris? You had the
I agree.
Falcons?
I have the Falcons as the toast of the NFC South. It's the only team I have from that division making the playoffs this year. I think Tampa Bay will vie for a wild card. I just think they're going to come up. They kind of overachieved last year, similar to the Texans. They kind of caught some teams by surprise. I don't think that'll happen this year. The Panthers and the Saints, we don't have to spend any. The Saints are a total disaster. They're one of the highest NFL payrolls in the NFL, and they have nothing. They're terrible. Carolina, we'll see. They were really, really bad last year. We'll see. The only thing I want to see from Carolina is if Bryce Young can stay upright, if they can protect him, and to give him a chance to see if he can play. He's so small, and their offensive line was so bad last year. It almost felt like he didn't get a fair shake to even try to see if he can be an NFL quarterback. But I agree with Derek. I'm not the biggest Falcon fan. I haven't been the biggest Falcon supporter. In addition to Kirk Cousins, I really love what they did on defense. I think getting Matthew Judon was a huge move for them, and it shows that they're all in this year and that they think they can make a run in the playoffs. And Bijan Robinson, I think he's going to be probably, if C-Mac stays healthy, he'll be C-Mac, but he'll probably be the second best running back in football, I would say, this year. I think he's in for a career years. Dalvin Cook, if you look at Dalvin Cook's prime years when he was with Kirk, I think you're going to see a similar year from Bijan this year. That's what I would expect.
Okay. Yeah, interesting division. Let's go to the North. Chris, I'll start with you because this is your division.
I am objective, right?
Uh-huh.
That's what I am, okay? I call it like I see it. I don't do it based on feelings, I just do it based on the facts. Okay, we'll start at the bottom. Vikings, absolutely god-awful trash. I think everybody can admit it. Sam Darnold is not the guy. He's never been the guy. He'll never be the guy. The only person I feel bad for is Justin Jefferson. At least he can be on a yacht while he's not catching the ball from Sam Darnold. Since he just got paid or whatever, they're just in shambles. They're in rebuilding. I think it'd be good for them to be terrible to get a top draft pick to try to get a quarterback of the future. I don't even think JJ McCarthy would have been the guy, even if he was healthy. I didn't see anything from him at Michigan that tells me he is a top tier NFL quarterback. I am not believing the Bears hype. I think they'll be better. I have them at 9-8 and missing the playoffs. I've been watching the Bears for a long time. Don't see it. Caleb Williams, I was a big believer in him before this last year at USC. I think he's fell in love with his own ego, and he just seems to be so arrogant and cocky and just I'm going to come in here and set the world on fire. I don't think he understands yet what the NFL, it's not like playing at USC and playing no defenses. Okay. You're going to have to actually study. You're going to have to prepare. And he just hasn't struck me as a guy who feels like he wants to spend a lot of time in the lab getting ready for the games on Sunday. He just doesn't strike me that way. So I think he's going to struggle more than people think in his first year. So we'll see what happens. I have the Packers. They went 9-8 last year. That win against Dallas made it seem like they had this wonderful, amazing year. They did not. They struggled for the first part of the year. They went on a tear at the end, barely squeaked into the playoffs and beat the Cowboys in a playoff game. Everybody beats the Cowboys in a playoff game. So I have them taking a little step up. I have them at 10-7. And as a wild card again, they're still one of the youngest teams in the NFL. Jordan Love had a great 8-game sample size. I have to see more before I can say he's a top-level quarterback. And Detroit is the class of this division. I don't even think it's close right now. Not because I'm a Jared Goff fan, okay, because I am not a Jared Goff fan. I think that is the most complete team in the NFC. And I think their defense is top-notch. I think Aiden Hutchinson is top-notch. I think their weapons on offense are great. They have the best offensive line in football. I think the pieces they put around Jared Goff is very similar to the pieces that San Francisco has around Brock Purdy. So I have the Lions going 13-4 and winning that division by a landslide.
I think you're a bit harsh on your Packers there because they won a wildcard game away from home, and then they were the better team against San Francisco in the divisional round. They just got unlucky. Yeah. I think Jordan Love's through the intercepts. But you're right, it does depend on his year-over-year leap. But I'm betting on him. I'm all in on the Packers this year. I think they're going to have a good season.
brand new defensive coordinator. It usually takes a season to figure that out with the new guy. He came from college. He hasn't coached in the NFL. So I think there's going to be a little transition for that. And I know you don't like to talk about kickers, but we got a rookie from the Tennessee Titans practice squad kicker as our kicker right now. And as much as I hate that kickers decide so many freaking games in the NFL, I wish we didn't have kickers at all. But since they decide so many games, I think they're going to lose a couple games just based on that. I can't remember his name, but against the freaking kicker that we got. So we'll see what happens.
We're getting this blood boiling.
If we're picking up kickers that the Tennessee Titans, no offense, Derek, I know you're a national. If we're picking up kickers that the Tennessee Titans didn't even want this guy, and now he's the only kicker on our team. So that goes a long way for me. So, you know,
Derek, I saw you nodding your head in agreement about the Caleb Williams stuff. What do you think? How do you think he's going to transition into the NFL?
I think he's a talented player. I think Chris nailed it, though. It's his attitude. It's his persona. It's like he's bigger than the team. It's all about Caleb Williams. You know, I don't know if you remember. I don't even know this is true, but I read in many articles that he was asking for like a percentage of ownership, like for whatever team that drafted him. All kinds of stuff has never been done before. Like, you haven't even played a snap in the NFL.
Nope.
Like, chill out a little bit. And I think that kind of attitude does not make his will be a turnoff for his teammates. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And so he can be as talented as he wants, but if his teammates don't want to play for him, it doesn't matter. You know, I think he needs to get humbled a little bit. And I think he will once he gets in the first few games, he'll get humbled quite a bit by some defenses.
Yeah, he's going to get humbled. Yeah. I saw him in the preseason. He made some good plays, and you know, the hype train starts to build up a little bit, but it's always funny when you go from preseason to week one and you go, shit, that was different.
He's got a lot of Kyler Murray vibes, man. He just I don't know, he just feels like he's too cool for like the game right now. And maybe
like nonchalant, like when he's in the press conference and stuff, he's just kind of like, yeah.
I think the best thing that could ever happen to him is to be put on his ass his first season, and he can actually determine whether he wants to like go on in the NFL. I think winning for him from an early stage is going to be worse for his career overall, because he's like, oh man, this is easy. I can do that. I don't even have to try hard. You know, we'll see. We'll see. You know, I'm a Bears hater, so we'll see.
All right, we're getting close to time, so let's go to the NFC West.
That's you, right?
That's me. I have the 49ers simply because we spoke about this last week, Chris, but they have such a stacked roster and so much money just into these players. They've got a season or two left before Brock Purdy comes off contract. Is going to want more money. This is it for them. This is their last chance to really make a run. And we're going back to 2020 when they made the Super Bowl with Garoppolo. They were one of the best teams there. They fell short. And they've just gotten close and fallen short. This is one of their last chances. It looks like Trent Williams, they've got a deal, so he's come back to training, which is good for them. So I think the 49ers win this one. I think they're the best team in the NFC. They'll run away with that. Second place, I wanted to put Seattle. I really did. I haven't been this excited for Seattle for a long time.
Really? You're excited for Seattle this year?
I'm excited because it's all new. We've got a new coach who, by everything I've seen from him, is just creating a really great culture there. I think our defense is going to be really, really great this year. I just don't know. I don't know enough to say if we're going to be good or not. I have the Rams finishing second just purely based on the jump from Puka Nacua, having that with Cooper Kupp, and Stafford's kind of on the tail end of his career. I think I'll miss Aaron Donald. That's, they've had him there for the last decade plus. I'll miss him, but I think they'll come second. Cardinals too. I don't know what to expect from them.
It's a wild card with them. You never know with the Cardinals this year.
You can have a big year. Marvin Harrison Jr. can have a big year. Murray's coming back from his ACL, so I think he'll be ready to go. I think besides the 49ers, I think it's an open division, and we'll see.
Yeah, no disagreements. I have the 49ers as a clear number one. I have the Rams as a wild card team, and then I have Seattle and Arizona missing the playoffs. There's a lot of Rams hype this year. A lot of people picking the Rams to win the division.
I think overhyped for the Rams.
Yeah.
I think Stafford's not as good as what he was. He's injury prone. I don't think the Rams are going to be as amazing as what people are calling them out. But
they caught a lot of people by surprise last year too, with Puka and Kyren Williams and all those guys. So we'll see if they can repeat. Then they can contend.
We might leave it there for time, and then next week we'll come back and we'll fit in our awards, MVPs, coach of the year, and things like that. Guys, any final thoughts before we wrap up this week?
I mean, I'm just excited to get it back rolling here and actually see some games actually be played. My biggest hope this year, I hope all the top guys stay healthy and like nobody goes down with some freaking ACL. You know, I actually wanted Aaron Rodgers to play last year. I think the league is more exciting when guys like that are in there. So I hope that we get a full season of the top tier guys able to complete the season so we can actually get a good barometer of, the top teams and players and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. All right, guys. So thanks for chatting this week. Looking forward to NFL and more college football, and we'll be back next week to chat about it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.